We will win. We will win. We will win. We will win.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Haby. I'm here with Lauren with the robust opposition.
How many people do you think are there?
Tens of thousands.
In fact, when Bernie went to the hospital, there were over 1 million of you. Now we're going to raise the bar on you and ask that you make 2 million phone calls. And if you'd like to join that effort, I'm going to ask you to text the word WIN to 67760. If you'd like to be part of that team. One last thing is that we've got some merch, official merch. Anything you buy at these tents goes directly into the campaign. So I appreciate if you could enjoy some of the wonderful merchandise we have. Okay, so let me lay out a little bit of the program.
Tell us a little bit. You say there's tens of thousands of people there.
I got here around 11 a.m. There were about there have to be about at least 15,000 people here. They had lines wrapping all around the park. They had tons of security. They had back checks, security, metal detectors. The security is good. I feel safe here. And the fact that you can't even see how many people. There's seas of people everywhere. People from all over, all walks of nationalities, ethnicities, men, women, LGBTQ. Everyone is here. Everybody's represented here. Because remember, Queens County is the most diverse county in the country with 2.1 million people, and that's a lot of Democrats. So think about that. And Bernie is here with AOC. It's going to be a great day.
All right, so now, Nick, you were a super volunteer for AOC, and we originally met at her primary victory night party in the Bronx. You were an AOC supporter, and you had been a Hillary supporter, and now you're a Bernie supporter. Tell us a little bit about your evolution.
Yes, it is a great story, and to be very honest, I got involved with politics through wanting to advocate for LGBTQ rights. When I moved to Astoria back in 2015, I befriended a lot of people on the ground who were politically active, and I did not know, I was not politically aware of centrism or progressivism. But growing up in New Jersey, I was naturally a centrist. There's not much progressivism out there. With that being said, when I eventually became more involved with my Democratic clubs on the ground in Astoria and in Queens and Manhattan, I learned that there was a movement, and I found out that there's more to politics than just Republican or Democrat, and that progressivism was really what's happening on the ground. When I became a supporter of AOC, it was when Joseph Crowley said to my face after asking a question, asking, what would you do when you win the primary to win over progressive voters on healthcare and campaign finance reform? He gave me Republican centrist talking points. He answered those questions horribly, and at the end of the day, the very next day, he actually endorsed the opponents of the LGBTQ advocate who I was fundraising for. So I knew that he also was not supportive of women of color between AOC and also with Jessica Ramos. She is now our state senator. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is now our congresswoman. So it wasn't until he failed on talking about diversity and failed to endorse progressive Democrats, I knew that he was not the man for me, and it broke the facade on the Democratic Party. I learned right then and there through my first-hand experience that the establishment is on the ground trying to suppress any progressivism that is popping up in corners of America. So when I supported AOC, I took a risk, and with all my political connections, not only did people not talk to me, not only did people avoid me, not only did people try to have my name sullied in the community, this is all based on the establishment support for Joseph Crowley, not only before the primary, but after the primary. But since then, I can say that the progressive movement has embraced me, along with AOC's campaign, and I'm so happy to be here fighting the good fight. And thank you all to be with us today.
So you're there, and tell us about the mood in Queens, because a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, everybody was really freaking out about Bernie's heart attack, and the mainstream media was trying to count him out. And then he came back with a strong debate performance. He came back with his 4 endorsements. I understand there's more endorsements to come, some local politicians. Tell us what you know.
It was a very interesting time because shortly after Warren got the WFP endorsement, we started to see a lot of the politicians on the Democrat side take a split. Where most of them did come out in support of Warren, even though the establishment here in Queens generally was very Biden-esque. Where, for instance, in the Queens district attorney race, Melinda Katz, who won, she won against Tiffany Caban only by 55 votes. But that being said, the Biden support was strong, and she's very much a centrist and not a strong progressive. Politicians coalesced around her for that race. So it was interesting to see that they're kind of using Warren as a shield of, kind to buffer or bolster their progressive credentials. However, we know deep down that she will not be fighting to change the system as much as Bernie. So when Warren talks about big structural change, we see the politicians on the ground try to feed into that, even though based on all of their records, we can see right there that they are not voting for strong, big structural change. However, today, State Senator Mike Gianaris, he endorsed Bernie Sanders. He was the man who single-handedly on the political front was out in support of taking down Amazon HQ2, and he's the one who told them to say sayonara. So I want to give him a shout out, and yes, he is supporting Bernie, and he is here for big structural change.
So what is the mood in the LGBTQ community? Because I know that for the life of me, back in 2016, we could not get people away. I mean, there were a handful of people I know who supported Bernie, but I live next to West Hollywood, which has a very big gay community. We could not, fly people away from Hillary.
Right. And listen, as an LGBTQ advocate, I was a part of that camp in 2016 where they supported Hillary. And I can say right now, the LGBTQ advocate on the ground, especially in progressive politics, a lot of the LGBT community is excited for Warren. They believe in her plans, they believe what she's saying, but these same people aren't necessarily looking at the intersectional policy or the necessarily the strong, robust progressivism that Bernie is bringing to the table on Green New Deal, stronger plan, Medicare for All, stronger plan, college tuition and debt-free college, stronger plans. However, they like to, they do identify with Warren's thinking and the idea that, she is a woman and the gay community does like to revere almost a celebrity-like political woman of strength. So although Warren is on a front runner now, she is not giving the same type of bold structural change that Bernie is proposing. So if you really look at the policy and things that are really going to help the LGBT community, and just fun fact, the LGBT community is largely disproportionate in a lot of the legislation that's currently on the books. Bernie's plans are the only ones that are going to actually speak to that community and change them for the better. Warren's plans do not get deep down to the surface as much as his. But the community is not. They're not interested in that. They are being distracted by the fanfare, the pizzazz, and all the institutional support from the mainstream media and the politicians here on the ground. So what I would like to see is more of the people taking a stand and really showing that Bernie is an ally. He's been around since the early 1980s, fighting on the front lines when it was not politically expedient and politically unpopular, but he stood with his values, and that's what the gay community really needs to wake up and see.
Well, it's really interesting because last night I had dinner with Winona Hodder, who's the executive director of Food and Water Watch, and we were talking about my theory that identity politics is dividing the left. And she agreed with me 100%. She even went further to say, I love it, because they don't play identity politics, and they're so happy that we're all divided. And I was going to ask you about Buttigieg, because, when he came out here and had his rally in West Hollywood, he got a big audience, and they're trying to pump him up now. Like in the debate, they were pumping him up and Amy Klobuchar. It's like any centrist, they can get traction. What do you think about that?
So I'm actually very disappointed in that, and it's a shame that the mainstream media is propping up people who are really not there to fight for our rights. Buttigieg, being an LGBTQ candidate, is actually very disappointing that he has not embraced the LGBTQ community as strongly and fiercely as some other people have, such as Bernie, going out on a limb, strongly supporting since day one. So Buttigieg, again, having these centrist talking points and trying to really appeal only to the cisgender white men of our community, and rarely do you see in his messaging or his marketing materials does he really embrace people of color, marginalized communities, working class. And the fact he gave such a horrible comment about pocket change, saying that my small dollar donations that I give to AOC and Bernie Sanders, that apparently that's not how we're going to win. No, that's exactly how we're going to win, because Bernie and Warren, I will give her credit, their small dollar donations both surpass his corporate donations. And don't forget, he was about to have a fundraiser with that corrupt lawyer, and he only dropped the lawyer. Oops. Yeah, just like a choice. Are you there? Yeah.
Yeah, folks, it's very hard to stream. I tried to stream from the global climate strike in Pershing Square in downtown Los Angeles on September 20th, and I could not keep a signal. And it's really a function of how many people are using their phones at these large rallies. I want you to know that I spoke with Corbin Trent yesterday, who is AOC's communications director for her campaign. We did ask to have a spot to try to interview AOC because I covered her when she came to Los Angeles. I was part of a group of activists who planned a day of events for her when she came to LA. And one of the things that she did was an activist breakfast. She wanted to hear from us, and everybody got to speak for 2 minutes, and she asked us questions. And then she came and did a big event. AOC is fantastic. She didn't want to do any fundraisers for herself. She just wanted to bring attention to the issues that are common to her and Bernie Sanders and progressives, the cost of housing and how it's completely unaffordable, the cost of healthcare and how that's completely unaffordable. So we had people from all these different groups speak to her, and then she took the stage and highlighted our concerns with some of our activists, including public banking. And people may know, who follow public banking or who follow California politics, that we were able to succeed and get that law passed in California just recently. The governor signed it a week ago. So now we can have public banks and take the money out of these predatory, greedy Wall Street banks. In Los Angeles alone, we're paying $600 million a year in interest and fees to Wells Fargo. And that's money that can go back into our communities to pay for affordable housing and low-income health care, et cetera, et cetera. So we're very happy that Bernie's circumstances have turned around and that he is strong. He sounded strong, even though they only gave him 6 minutes of speaking time at the debate. When he spoke, he did a great job. And of course, the mainstream media totally marginalized him. And worse than that, NBC actually took a great quote that he said and attributed it to Elizabeth Warren. I mean, it would be funny if it weren't so tragic. And it took them a day to fix that. And instead of like doing a correction and saying we attributed this quote erroneously to Elizabeth Warren, they simply changed their article and put in an actual Elizabeth Warren quote. They said, oh, that maybe they did correct it. They said that quote that we had was said by Bernie, but here's what Warren said. I mean, it's so hysterical. But anyway, so there were plenty of memes. And then I was just thrilled to hear yesterday about the Michael Moore endorsement, because everybody knows that Michael was very strong for Bernie in the primary in 2016. And then, of course, after the convention, he flipped to Hillary, and he was huge in supporting Hillary. And a lot of people, faulted him for that, but they obviously weren't listening very closely, because he was saying all along that Trump was going to win. He understood the dynamics. He is in the heartland of the country. His first movie was about the dying auto industry in Flint, Michigan, which is where he's from. So he understands what's happened, what neoliberalism and bad trade deals have done to America over the last 40 years. And he understood that only a populist like Bernie could actually win. And Hillary, of course, and the DNC and the entire Democratic establishment foisted her on us, even though she was hated by the right and the extreme left. And of course, the rest is history. And now we have Trump. And I'm sure many of you have seen that yesterday Hillary came back into the picture. She keeps coming back. And every time she tweets something, it's worse than the last tweet. And I think the thing that she said yesterday was the absolute worst, which was that Tulsi, well, she didn't mention Tulsi, but she said a certain Democratic congresswoman who's running for president, which we know is Tulsi, is probably a Russian asset and and is being groomed by Putin and Russia and will probably run independent. And she also said that was definitely the case with Jill Stein, which is completely wrong, completely slanderous. And if I were Jill Stein, I would sue Hillary for defamation. Of course, it's a hard suit to prove because Jill Stein is a public figure, and you have to prove in a defamation suit, you have to prove not only that the statement is false, but there was malice intended. So everybody knows Hillary Clinton intends no malice. Of course, she's only concerned about the welfare of the United States, not her own career advancement, of course. Anyway, Tulsi came back with a real zinger, called her a complete warmonger, and said the primary is now between you and me, and you should enter and stop talking through proxies, which I thought that part was a little egomaniacal if Tulsi thinks the primary is between her and Hillary, considering Tulsi's polling in the low single digits. But she does bring a good anti-war voice to the debates when she can get in. Of course, in the last debate, they cut her off continually whenever she was trying to make points. She was going to go after Elizabeth Warren, as many of you could hear, but they kept cutting her off, going to commercial. So I was a little disappointed in that because so far, that one of the highlight, that's still the number one highlight to me of all the debates was her takedown of Kamala Harris, who is my senator, and I'm very familiar with her record, and we call her Counterfeit Kamala. Anyway, I'm going to close this live stream right now because we've lost Nick, and I'm going to encourage you to go to Bernie Sanders' page on either Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, because I'm sure he's going to be live streaming on all platforms. Keep supporting Bernie and keep fighting, and share this video.